words of a popular podcast on Taoism, to which I'll link up in the credits to this video. I hope you'll like it. What is this Tao all about? And mark why this translation. Over 40 years ago, after my Chinese history professor introduced me to Taoism and the Tao Te Ching, I went over to the library on my campus and checked out a copy of the text. Since that day, I have found this sacred text something to which I've returned to often, again and again, for clarity and for peace, insight. And this may seem weird, to learn how to lose control. I'm a control freak, maybe you are too. It's good for that. First of all, Tao Te Ching is the most translated and most interpreted religious text in the world, except for the New Testament, which is pretty significant. This significance increases when you realize that the New Testament is often translated, published, and then promoted with an evangelical mindset to convince non-Christians to convert to New Testament events. But Taoism has many schools, but no central publishing house, no bureaucratic structure, no equivalent of a pope or a Mecca or a central bureaucracy. Most Tao Te Ching translations are usually self-funded and self-initiated because a translator feels this 2,500-year-old text from a non-Western worldview still speaks, not just to human conditions today, but the conditions of the universe itself. Before there was a theory of everything put forth by science, Taoism had already been a centuries-old metaphysical explanation of everything. And now, in this 2021 year, one could not ask for a better wisdom source for living wisely in these days of climate change, or what to do in conflict situations, or even how to, I think, work for a fair, non-racist, more egalitarian culture. Taoism teaches that everything is connected. Across time, across species, across space. Therefore, justice and peace are not just our primordial states, but they are baked into the original blueprints of the universe. Most Western interpreters leave out this crucial idea of justice and Tao. So the subtitle of my book is intentional: Power for the Peaceful. Simply put, the injustices of our world are not baked in, but the projections of our desires to promote egos, to compete, to become number one and remain great. And most sadly, to think of ourselves as unconnected with others, or unconnected with this universe which evolved us. Our primordial connection with the makeup of the universe is the power for peace that makes this text as relevant as this morning's New York Times. Now, not everyone has heard of Tao Te Ching. Maybe you haven't. But most of us have heard things that are associated with Taoism. For example, you've heard the wisdom, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step, or your first step. Or those who know don't say, and those who say don't know. Both of these sentences come from this sacred text. From Taoism, we get many ideas in our modern life that may not be readily apparent. Do you know a martial art? The Do in Judo, or Taekwondo, or Aikido, Bushido, and Hapkido is the same character as Tao, literally, which means the way, but can also be interpreted as the road, conduit, path, even doctrine. But there's more. Acupuncture, anyone? Chinese medicine, Tai Chi, Feng Shui, these are all Taoist in origin. You may be thinking that this text has little to do with us, but maybe not. Next, I translated this text mainly for my students in classes, although a first-time reader anywhere could benefit from it, as well as a seasoned reader of it can benefit from it. Tao Te Ching, though, is often mysterious and hard to understand. For example, it tells you the best way to do something is to not do. Or the way to get honored is to go into hiding. Or the best thing in the world is hidden underneath everything, invisible. Yes, Taoism's truths are circular at times, even mysterious, but that's part of the experience of Tao. In my own translation, I used Emily Dickinson as my guide. Tell all the truth, she wrote, but tell it slant. Success in circuit lies. So I've really tried to make this sometimes hard to understand, circular, even mysterious text accessible as possible for anyone who's been alive. After each of the 81 short verses, and this makes my translation unique, there's a chorus of voices from around the world across the centuries who have sung or sing something similar. So, a song by Pink Floyd helps the understanding of verse 2. A poem by Rumi helps out in verse 4. Margaret Atwood and Bruce Lee speak out in verse 8. Mozart, verse 11. Sojourner Truth in verse 52, and so on. 81 verses, over 400 accompanying voices. So, you're about to ask, what is Tao? Is it God? Like God? No. But when Western Christians translated the New Testament book of John into Chinese, they used, and still use today, Tao for John's first verse, which reads, in the beginning was the Tao, or the English word, capital W. In the beginning was the Tao, and the Tao was with God, and the Tao was God. And for John 14, verse 6, the interpreters used Tao, and still do, to translate Jesus' word there. I am the Tao, or I am the way. I am the Tao, the truth, and the life. No one comes to God except through me. These are all fine and good, but Tao and Tao Te Ching is something else. Non-personal, non-God, not invested with you teaming up with it. What is Tao then? Tao is the energy of, the blueprints underlying, the inherent peace of, and the balance within all creation. Nature, before even we had a concept of nature. Before there's even a human knowledge system telling us about our human nature. Before there was language, Tao was already at work, forming and informing our true nature. This is not an otherworldly spirituality in which one's true home is in heaven, but an earth-based spirituality teaching us how to live in this time, this place, in the now, the here, the this. Now, here, this. So what do Taoists do? With no church or meeting house or nearby clergy, what does a person seeking the way or the Tao of the universe actually do? I'll be happy to amplify this in other conversations. You may want to start with me, but I always begin the same way. A Tao follower does one thing first. She breathes with whatever her situation in which she finds herself. She tunes herself with her environment. And to breathe with is to conspire. To get so close in and turn with one's immediate surroundings that both listens and hears, sees and envisions, touches and is touched. And the Taoist does this while trying to silence all those voices we have. I know you do, like I do. Those unnatural voices of ego, desire, self-promotion, competition. No, just turn in. Turn to, tune in, breathe with, allow what is to be. Leave behind that attachment to those unmanaged desires, to those woulda, coulda, shoulda voices of thinking. Because many wisdom teachings in the world teach this very thing. Blur your ego's focus. Weaken the gravitational pull of desire. And meddle not into those things that do not involve you. This is what a Taoist attempts. And from the dialogue with her environment, she intuits the direction for peace and the power for peace. You're welcome to get in touch with me. That info is on my website, which I've listed here. And we can start a conversation. In the meanwhile, may the peace of Tao overtake you as you live this moment. Thank you for being with me today.